Hey guys, it's Tiffany from the Stoke fam, and today I'm coming to you with the first in a 4-part video series about homeschooling. Today we are going to tackle kind of setting the stage, the legal requirements how to find all those legal requirements that you will need to follow, and kind of setting the stage for a good year. And then in the next few videos we will break down a little bit more about how to choose the best curriculum for your family, how to schedule, how to keep track of everything, and frequently asked questions and mindset, and we've got quite a bit to get into. But today's video is kind of setting the stage. And so I wanted to mention to you, if you would like to, you can hop over to our website at thestokefam.com if you would like to follow along or get a reference link of the resources that I'll mention. Almost all of the ones I'll mention are already on our website. Otherwise, grab a pen and paper and jot them down as we go. Okay, so a little bit of background about us is that we are going on our seventh year of homeschooling. My oldest, when it was time for him to go to preschool, I wasn't ready for it, and so we decided we were going to homeschool preschool. And then our rule has been, as long as it's working for everybody, we'll continue to do it. And so far, it's been working for everybody, and so here we are going into 5th grade and still doing it. We've definitely made some changes over the year. We've tried a lot of things. Some things have worked excellent. Some things have been wonderful, but too time-consuming for our lifestyle. Other things have not worked at all, and we are done with them and never going back. And so I'm going to try to break down some of that for you so that you can kind of jumpstart that, because especially if you're being thrown into this and you know you're only in it for a year or even a semester, you don't want to have to jump from curriculum to curriculum over and over. So I'm going to help you try to choose, can't guarantee it, but I'm going to help you try to find the pathway to choose what's right for your family so that you can feel confident and actually excited about the beginning of the school year. Okay, so today I'm going to start out with answering one of the questions I get all the time. Like, can you do that? Is that legal? I get that all the time. So yes, in the United States, it is completely legal to homeschool your children. However, each state does have different requirements that you have to follow. And the best way I've found to easily find that information without going down the rabbit hole for hours is to go to hslda.org/legal. And that is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, I believe it's association, .org. And they have, when you go to that page, when you bring it up, there will be a map. And on that map are all the states, and you can just click on your state, and then it will tell you what the requirements are. So it will go through and tell you, they keep it pretty up to date. Of course, you should probably double check, but they keep it really up to date, so it's really helpful. They'll tell you if you have to have any special certifications, if you have to file or declare an intent to homeschool like we do here in Oregon. They'll have information on if there's any requirements or testing that you have to do, or turning in any records. And so it's just really helpful to know going into the year what you will be responsible for, because it's going to be different for every single state. And that way you know going into it that you're set up for success. So that's the first place I suggest you start if you know you're going to homeschool. Then the second thing I suggest is Google your local destination. I talk about travel and adventure too much. Your local area, so Google your state or your county. Probably your state's a great place. So for us, I would Google Homeschool Oregon Network or Homeschool Oregon Association. And I know that I would pull up the Oregon Homeschool Education Network. And that resource, each state typically has their own, and it's a plethora of information, so helpful. They will have more detail on your specific state, frequently asked questions, and probably resources for you as well, and contact information, so that if there's a question that you have that isn't addressed on HSLDA or somewhere else, or that your school district maybe doesn't answer how you think it should be, they're a great resource for you to make sure that everything is being done as it should be. And that means I'm saying that also for you, not just for the state, but sometimes the public schools don't actually like people to withdraw. Not always, but sometimes. And so I just say that because it's a great resource. If you think something doesn't sound right and you think that's not what you read, they're a great resource to make sure that everything is correct. Okay, so each state, so then the next question I often get is, do I have to have a certification? And I'm just going to briefly touch on that because I kind of already said like the HSLDA is where you'll find that information. But if you go, each state will have a different requirement. Some require a high school diploma, some requires hours of education or college credit. Some require that you have done a certificate basically saying that you are equipped to homeschool your children. Some of them let you forego those requirements by having a mentor. So there's just different requirements, and that's why I say to go to HSLDA, because there's no way I could cover all 50 states, but it's a great resource. And if you have questions, once you get there, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to try to help you figure out where to go if you still have questions at that point. And then the next thing, once you've figured out what your state requirements are, the next thing to do is to make sure that your school district or your education service district, like we have here in Oregon, which is different from our school district, just to be confusing, that they know that you are intending to homeschool. So most of the time that means that you have to send in a letter or file a particular form that says, we intend to homeschool our children, and basically we're taking over the responsibility of their education until otherwise notified. Some require you to do it every year. Some require you to just do it once until you go back. So that's, again, why you want to check each state's requirements. Then the next thing I suggest is something that seems, probably goes against your intuition, but I highly suggest, especially if your kids have already been in public school. If you've not been, then you probably have already homeschooled and you already know. But if your kids have been in public school or another private school, and they're used to a classroom setting with a teacher and a completely different setting than it's going to be at home, I would say it's a good idea to consider deschooling. So basically, deschooling is not to say that you don't do any school. Deschooling is to say that you kind of allow your child's interests to lead and your interests to lead, and you investigate what works for you guys. So basically, the idea is that it will help to reduce some of those preconceived notions that your kids might have about school. So it's going to kind of reset. If they've had a bad experience at school, it's going to let them realize that homeschool doesn't have to be the same as that school. So if they've been bullied at school, they're going to realize, hey, learning can be fun versus not fun. Or it's going to also help you kind of change the narrative about learning so that your kids aren't always like, well, Miss So-and-so did it this way, or that's not how we do it at our school, or that's not how they taught me. It kind of sends them a different message about the way school is to kind of break those habits from traditional school. So not because there's anything wrong with those habits, but just because schooling in a home environment is completely different. And so the goal is to let everybody adjust. So even if you have a curriculum plan, you know what you're going to do, it's not a bad idea to at least start on a more relaxed front. You can read way more about deschooling if it sounds like something you're interested in. The recommendation is generally to do it for about a month, or if your kid has been in public school for longer, then roughly a week per year of school. So if your kid is in 7th grade, then the idea would be to do it for about 7 weeks. And that, again, doesn't mean that you're not doing anything. It just means that you're changing the narrative and making it more fun, breaking the cycle, doing more field trips as much as you can right now. Maybe they're field trips to a hike with a plant guide and learning about edible plants, or whatever interests you and your kids. But it's going to help you kind of break that cycle, break that mold, and figure out what everybody really, really likes and how everybody works together. And then the next thing I want to say, and I feel is incredibly important, and I have is 7 years in, I totally use this all the time, is finding a support system. So homeschooling is great when it's great, and it's hard when it's hard, just like having kids, right? Like, it's just part of being a parent. So it's really tough when it's tough, and it's really, really good when it's good. And just like you have a good mom friend to be like, oh, it's so awesome, my kid said the sweetest thing today, and they can celebrate that with you. Or my kid took his first steps today, and you have your mom group that you or your parent group that you celebrate those with. Or my kid learned to snowboard today, and it's like, and you're super stoked to share that, right? Just like you have that, it's also good to have a homeschool support system, whether it is another mom, like one-on-one that you meet with, whether it is a group that you are a part of on Facebook or on another online forum, whether it is a chat that you set up with a group of friends who are new to this as well. It doesn't really matter. It could be location dependent. It doesn't really matter, but the goal is to find your people, because you want somebody who can talk you down when it's been a rough day, and you want somebody who can celebrate with you when it's been really good. So those are kind of the biggest 3 things I would say that we really, really find helpful before you get started. And I wish that somebody had told us about all those things, like the DeSchooling, probably not so much for us, and the finding our support system, we kind of started to begin with on our own. We quickly found our homeschool people, but we kind of started on our own. So if you find it first, you're only going to feel more supported and have a better start to your homeschool journey, whether it lasts this year, a semester, or the next 5 years or 10 years. So I hope that helps. That is the end of the first video, and I will be back in the next day or so with our next.